Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 406 News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up from Hot Air, David Strom joins us at 5 o'clock. You can join us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL.
Catholics will be a key demographic in every battleground state. I'm sorry, why is Vice President Harris not here? I mean, consider this. This is a room full of Catholics and Jews in New York City. This is a layup for the Democratic nominee. I mean, in her defense, she did find time to appear on The View, Howard Stern, Colbert, and the longtime staple of campaigning, the Call Her Daddy podcast.
You know, Chuck Schumer was nodding violently when he said that. When Jim Gaffigan said, this is a layup for a Democrat candidate, and Chuck Schumer was nodding. Like, in other words, yeah, Kamala should be here. President Trump, in his remarks last night at the Al Smith dinner, said it's disrespectful that she's not.
It's been a long tradition for both Democrat and Republican candidates for president of the United States to attend this dinner. It's a rule. You got to go to the dinner. You got to do it. Otherwise, bad things are going to happen to you from up there. You can't do what I just saw on that screen. But my opponent feels like she does not have to be here, which is deeply disrespectful to the event and in particular to our great Catholic community. Very disrespectful. The last Democrat not to attend this important event was Walter Mondale, and it did not go very well for him. He lost 49 states and he won one, Minnesota. So I said, there's no way I'm missing it. Actually, it was not easy for me to get here tonight. I wasn't going to miss this thing, no matter, I didn't care. I wasn't going to miss it. But that's true, Walter Mondale, 49 and 1. He was expected to do well, then it didn't work out. It shows you there is a God. I mean, for those people that are questioning it.
President Trump did well last night. For more on this, Chris Bedford joins us, senior politics editor and D.C. correspondent for TheBlaze. Chris, good to have you back with us, sir.
Great to be here, Vince.
It's so it's a night that is supposed to, tip of the hat to the Catholics. That happens every presidential campaign. President Trump was right. Last person to skip it was Walter Mondale, and as the president pointed out, that didn't go well for him.
Yeah, he took that joke from the Cardinal too, stole it right from him. But I loved those lines. I mean, I was reaching out to folks today to try and figure out who wrote it. Apparently, it was a team effort. And the Trump campaign to put together some of those lines. He had some fantastic zingers on the white men for Kamala Harris campaign and on white women for Kamala Harris campaign and all these different groups that were out there. But, Jim Gaffigan had some of the best lines. And he's a Catholic. He's a observant Catholic, but he's a committed Democrat, if that's possible in this day and age. And he had a lot of zingers for Kamala Harris right after, if you caught her video that she sent in, which was bad. Trump was up there for about 28 minutes or so. She sent in a 4-minute video. Most of the jokes came from a tired SNL character just kind of repeating them. And then she gave a somber message. It wasn't very good. It seemed like a dial-in. It seemed like something that you would send just if you didn't really care that much. Yeah. And it was a real oversight by Kamala Harris. I know that maybe that there's some worry that showing up at a Catholic dinner would upset the LGBT community. Kamala Harris has been notoriously hostile towards Catholics, questioning whether Catholics were capable of serving in the judiciary. For all she likes to cite the Constitution, she sure skips it. But at the end of that video, Jim Gaffigan comes up and says, well, now I know how my kids felt when I FaceTimed into their piano recital. It's just not a good feeling. It's not the real thing. And it was such an easy layup for her just to show up. She made time for all these other shows, and she didn't show up.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I see people on Twitter speculating that her campaign really regrets it this morning and that it was a really bad idea. I don't know. I don't know if that's even true or not, but it does seem like an unforced error. Like she could, despite all of her obvious hostility to Catholics, that's the kind of thing that you can go just attend to try and mitigate the damage.
And it's not a very political event. It's not a big social conservative event. It's not showing up at the Catholics for Life event. Well, Cardinal O'Malley himself is actually pretty legitimate and good. This is a dinner for New York City's elite. I know a lot of Catholics who went to it. It doesn't have a particularly Catholic agenda. And honestly, the Catholic political vote as a bloc was something that the bishops squandered in the 1960s and have never regained. The moral authority in politics is something that they've surrendered to the secularists and the atheists and every other group, but they are too afraid to actually say, maybe the gospel says we should live this way and hold our politicians to account for it.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge Catholic vote, but you can still disrespect those people. You can still let us know that you don't care, or that it would be politically harmful maybe for her to show up at a dinner with the Cardinal, but it wouldn't be politically harmful to her to show up at a sex podcast or to show up on this, or Howard Stern, who, I know you're a longtime fan, but he's got a shock jock past himself. He's said some controversial things. I don't know why Catholics would be too controversial, except for the antipathy that so many people around her hold us in.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just, for what it's worth, I've liked Howard Stern's interviews in the past. I thought they were revelatory, some of the conversations he's had. But what the idea that he came up as some sort of man against the machine, now he is such a loyal servant to that machine. It's grotesque, and
it's gross.
Yeah, it's really awful. You mentioned a joke. I want to play it. This is President Trump talking about white dudes for Harris. And Chris, you and I have been friends for a very long time. I wasn't in the room with you, but I know exactly what your laugh sounded like when President Trump said this.
There's a group called White Dudes for Harris. Have you seen this? White Dudes for Harris. Anybody know? Are some of you here? White Dudes for Harris? Doesn't sound like it. But I'm not worried about them at all, because their wives and their wives' lovers are all voting for me. Every one of those people is voting for me.
That was good. I really like that. There was, I don't know if I've got it, but he also took some shots at Tim Walz, and it was just really, it was good. And the reality, of course, is that Trump had the floor. By just showing up, Trump gets the cameras, he gets the microphone, he gets the floor, he gets to take free shots on his opponent. And Kamala decided to forego all of that because, honestly, she's terrible at this, Chris.
Yes, because it's not like it's a hostile environment. It's not like it's people who are against Kamala Harris. It's not like it's so far from Washington, D.C. or Pennsylvania, where she has to be campaigning. And that's a state where Catholic voters and church-attending Catholic voters actually do make a difference and really do matter. She could hop over there for a few hours. She doesn't have to deal with New York traffic. She's the vice president, and she's the Democratic nominee. They can cruise right in there.
Yeah.
I'm sure Donald Trump did as well. It's not the same kind of commitment. It's totally optics, and it's a total miscalculation. And I saw the same reports that you heard, that we all saw and were able to confirm on Twitter about how angry she's been about this decision today. But I just got off the phone with a union official who was on a phone call where she was on earlier this morning, who told me that he confirmed, not all the details we saw on Twitter, but that mood was vile.
In other words, that within the campaign, they were upset that they didn't participate?
There was just a very grumpy, angry, and kind of a desperate mood this morning. The dinner itself wasn't specifically mentioned that I've been able to confirm so far.
Got it.
But an anger at campaign staff and the decisions that have been being made of late. And you see it across the Democratic media and Democrat allies who are today wondering, come on, why didn't you just show up? Why do we have to talk about this? We want to be talking about how Donald Trump is bad for America. Instead, we're talking about how you skipped this.
That's exactly right. I'm really looking forward to her losing and all of the people that once again are in the wake of her destruction coming out and telling us the story of the collapse of that campaign. I also want to get your reaction to the fact that Chuck Schumer was sitting right next to President Trump as he was doing his comedy routine last night. And President Trump even mentioned Chuck Schumer at one point. Here's how that sounded.
Chuck Schumer is here looking very glum. Doesn't he look glum? He looks glum. But look on the bright side, Chuck, considering how woke your party has become. If Kamala loses, you still have a chance to become the first woman president.
Another good line. Now, I will say, one of the things I noticed last night, Chris Bedford, is that that Chuck Schumer was, like, nice to Trump. Like, they were shaking hands. They were talking to one another. He was treating him like a human being. And it struck me that, once again, it was sort of like this, like the curtain was raised and it was crystal clear that Chuck Schumer doesn't even believe what he says about Trump, and that none of these Democrats do. That they just try and divide the country by casting Trump as some sort of demon. But when they're right up there next to him, they're happy to shake his hand and treat him like a human being.
You know, you're right. And that is a little bit of politics. But the Democrats have taken it to a new level in the last few years of calling Trump a Hitler. You hear now, like, repeat it just without questioning on ABC and other places that the military is going to be sicked on Democrats and people are going to be rounded up, just completely insane stuff. Now, if you actually believed that, as opposed to simply had serious policy disagreements with someone, you wouldn't shake their hand. You wouldn't be their pal. And you saw Trump ribbing Schumer and giving him a pat on the back at the end, but it was kind of obvious from those interactions that they actually are both, or were, prominent New Yorkers who go back years. They've given Trump, I think, in the past has supported Schumer in different things in his earlier political career. That these people know each other, that they're human beings. That's kind of another point of the dinner. Is it's a roast, but it's also bringing people from different divides together. And Trump is right. If you look at that video, his head is down. He's looking at the table. He's crossing his hands in front of his face.
Right.
He's not leaning back. And most people who are on the stage don't laugh too uproariously. They just try to smile and be polite. But he did look glum.
Yeah, it was the whole scene was bizarre, though. It's like, you know, Jim Gaffigan called it out last night. It's just like all of these people are a part of. Or here's actually Jim in his own words.
Looking at this impressive dais of attendees up here, I never know how to address you people. Do you prefer, global elite or coastal elite? I mean, I know we live in sensitive times, and I don't want to mislabel anyone.
Yeah, and they all looked ridiculous. I mean, Mike Bloomberg was sitting in front of the speaker's position, just staring blankly at the camera for over an hour. It was really bizarre.
It's awkward when you've got the camera on you the whole time. You're trying to eat your dinner. I'm sure it can be a little weird, but maybe take some cues from the veterans who just sit there and smile. Or a really good tactic was the Cardinal, who you kind of would try to hide his laughter. He would look at the speaker and put his hand up where his face is. You couldn't tell if he was smiling or frowning or laughing, but he was certainly paying rapt attention.
Yeah, well, it was a funny event. I encourage people, if you haven't seen it, at least Jim Gaffigan's stand-up bit and President Trump's stand-up, but it turned out great, I thought. And in the end, truthfully, I'm glad Kamala wasn't there. I didn't need to see her do stand-up. That video was awful enough. I didn't need to see a full-blown set from her. Hey, Chris Bedford, thank you, sir, from The Blaze for your time and for your reporting on just how glum the Kamala campaign is this morning.
Thank you, Vince.
Good. All right, all the numbers keep pouring in. I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go crazy. This election is gonna drive me absolutely bonkers. 538, the election tracker, their forecast as of today now has President Trump with a 52% chance of winning the election. Kamala Harris, 48%. That's a big improvement for President Trump in 538's assessment. Also, Nate Silver on his Silver Bulletin now has Trump at a 51.6% chance. That's an improvement since yesterday. Kamala Harris at 48.1%. So President Trump heading back into the driver's seat in all of these surveys. You heard from Senator Rick Santorum a few minutes ago. He was telling us that the internals he's seen, presumably Republican internals, maybe presumably Trump internals, look very good in Pennsylvania, he says. And the Kamala campaign is, well, judge for yourself.
should never again have the privilege of standing behind the seal of the President of the United States.
Uh-oh.
Never again.
Uh-oh.
Never again.
Uh-oh.
Never again.
Uh-oh. She's had her "why aren't I 50 points ahead" phase. That's oh my goodness. This is a disaster. This is really bad. Well, for her. For the rest of us, not so much. Not so much. It sounds that's promising. So okay. So please don't rig the election. That's all I'm praying for now. Please don't rig it. As Kamala's panicking on the stump, screaming at her voters. I've been receiving some of your incoming about an event that happened yesterday in Wisconsin, because apparently somebody, we haven't confirmed this yet, and that's why, but who cares? I want to tell you, somebody apparently screamed out "Jesus is Lord" in the middle of Kamala Harris's remarks yesterday in Wisconsin as she was raving about abortion. And then she said, "I think you guys are at the wrong rally." It's hard to hear.
With the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
If that person actually yelled "Jesus is Lord" and she said, "I think you're at the wrong rally," yet another reason her campaign should be completely done, completely over. Stay with us. Hey, good afternoon to you. It is now 4:35, News Talk 105.9 WMAL, where we're making sense of the news. Coming up on the program, David Strom will be with us at 5 o'clock. And you can join us, 888-630-9625, 888-630-WMAL. I want to go to the phones now. I've got Donna calling in from Frederick, as she does. Line 2. Hello, Donna. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hi, Vince. I watched yesterday with, I watched everything pretty much, President Trump with the roast, which, by the way, I thought this time around it was better than in 2016. And he really, he got the neocons and the left, he gave them some hard truths, which I thought was great. But with respect to Kamala,
yeah.
First of all, the fact she didn't go there, I thought was rude, disrespectful. And her video was kind of stupid and gross in many ways. And it bothered me to the point that she cannot present herself in public. She cannot communicate well. And she has to hire actors to eat up time so she does not have to speak to the public about anything.
You're right.
Other than what she selectively told she could speak about.
Have you noticed that is sort of the trend?
I don't know.
That's sort of the trend, Donna, isn't it? You know, with white dudes for Kamala and white chicks for Kamala and black dudes for Kamala and black chicks. And every time, all of those events, and also at the Oprah event. Remember that big Oprah thing? They are bringing in so many ringers to try and convince you that Kamala Harris has any support whatsoever. So that's why you end up with like Ben Stiller and Meryl Streep and all these actors and actresses on screen saying, "I love Kamala." These people have spent their whole lives pretending. And here they are pretending to like Kamala. And so, yet again, Molly Shannon was used in that way in order to reprise a role, which I've seen a bunch of people pointed out. I share in their sentiment. I never once found that character funny. I've never once, when it was in its prime, when they made a whole movie about that character, Mary Catherine Gallagher, it was never funny. And she tried to bring it up last night, and I was thinking, first of all, how old does she think the audience is? Like, how many people even remember this character, A? And B, why wouldn't you choose one that was funny instead of that?
Yeah, and I spoke with someone who made an observation that they think, and they've seen it with people in the past, that she may be having some kind of nervous breakdown, and that may be why they limit her availability to the public. And I'm still thinking it may be crazy, but they're going to have to exit her stage left. I can't see her making it in some capacity at all. I just don't see it happening.
Well, as I recall,
Maybe
Donna,
I'm
you were
crazy,
saying the same
but
thing about Joe Biden. So your predictive powers are excellent. So that may very well be the case. It does seem like the time frame is very constrained for that. But to your point about a nervous breakdown, this is precisely what's in Kamala Harris's past. Every story we've ever heard about the way that she treats her staff is garbage. She has one of the highest turnover rates in all of Washington, D.C. She treats people miserably. They get out as soon as they realize that their lives are becoming nightmares working under her. And usually it's because she sticks them with the blame for her own failures. It's a woman who doesn't do any prep. She doesn't actually try and do the homework. She shows up completely unprepared. And then when she falls flat on her face, she blames the people underneath her, which is all of the signs of toxic leadership, all of them. And one of the reports I was alluding to this morning, that when I was just talking to Chris Bedford, is that as of this morning, there were some claims on Twitter going around that she was screaming at her own staff this morning for their decision not to send her to the Al Smith dinner last night. Now, I don't know if that's true. That's the realm of rumor. But you heard Chris Bedford say that he just completed some reporting on this subject and that things are not going well. There's a lot of problems going on in the Kamala campaign right now and a lot of distress about how this campaign is going.
Exactly. And it reminds me of the promise everything, deliver nothing, and blame everybody else. That is the left, full circle. What goes around comes around.
Yeah, it sure does. Donna, thank you as always for all of your excellent calls. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good to hear from you. All right, let's see here. I've got Greg phoning in from Gaithersburg now on line 4. Greg, good afternoon, sir. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Hey, Vince, it's great to talk to you. Great to talk to everybody.
Listen,
yesterday you responded to someone who was saying, hey, that state Republican Party, that website doesn't really do anything for me. I wanted to pass along the fact that, and you mentioned it, and I appreciate that some of the local parties have some good websites, and Montgomery County is among the places that has a good website, in my opinion. I'm very biased on that, of course, but I wanted to let you know mcgop.com is the Montgomery County Republican Party website. We do have a voter guide on there. We do have a list of voting sites. We have the link to find out how you're registered. With the link to find out if your ballot's been submitted, according to them, those kinds of things. There's a menu item 2024 election.
Yep.
On mcgop.com, and that will take you right to it. It's not a very modern website, but it has the information that the gentleman was looking for.
Yes.
And if he's in Montgomery County or someone else is, it would be great if you knew about it. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Greg, you sound like you're speaking on behalf of them. Are you associated with the MCGOP?
Yes, indeed. I've been a member of the committee for many years and taken many roles. My role right now is trying to run the website.
Well, then you're the right guy. I love that. You're the website guy.
No, I'm tooting my own horn, but we have we spend a lot of time. There's only a few of us really working hard. There's a bunch of us working hard, and this is one thing that I think we do pretty well.
Well, I love that, and you're right that I did call attention to your excellent work actually yesterday because I was
wonderful.
That phone call came in, and I checked. I looked at the statewide GOP website, and I said, yeah, this could use some fixes. You could more prominently feature how to find my polling place and where do I get my sample ballot, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the Montgomery County GOP website, which is going to affect a lot of people in our audience, we have a lot of Republicans in Montgomery County who are looking for details like that. You do have it up there front and center, pretty easy to navigate to. So mcgop.com. Congrats, Greg, and thank you for calling in with that.
Thanks a lot, Vince. Thanks a lot.
That's Greg in Gaithersburg. And with what does he do? He runs the website for the MCGOP. Thank God he called in. I'm glad he did. Let's see here. Dave is calling in from Alexandria, line 3. Hello, Dave. You're on the Vince Coglianese Show.
Yeah, good afternoon, Vince. Hey, I want to make a point about something, but Donna reminded me about something. Did anyone else notice the turd underneath Chuck Schumer's nose the entire evening?
Yes, he had his nose. He was scrunching big time.
I mean, even when you go to these events, you're supposed to join in the frivolity and the laughter and, kind of get into the mood. But he just sat there like a, I don't know. He just sat there.
Yes, he was trying to avoid laughing at Trump's remarks, although he didn't get away with it the whole time. Occasionally he would chuckle. He was cracking up. So Trump's material was so good that he got Chuck Schumer to break character from time to time.
I noticed one chuckle, and it was only a modest chuckle.
It was a modest
chuckle. But anyway,
chuckle.
the reason I'm calling in, I've volunteered a couple times at two different polling stations, and I'll be doing more throughout the campaign.
Oh, God bless you.
I just wanted to observe or note this. My observation at both polling places has been that black men and women, by I'm going to say 50 to 60%, are asking for Republican sample ballots. Now, if that holds true throughout the country, my goodness, can you imagine the electoral landslide that will create?
Well, it's consistent with the data that we're seeing in terms of there's a shift going on. When you say you work at the polls, Dave, what's your vantage point? Are you working inside of the polls? You're outside working on behalf of the Republicans? What are you up to?
I'm working outside on behalf of the next president, Donald Trump, and working with sample ballots, explaining what the amendments and the initiatives are, and asking, which would you prefer? Well, I'm not asking which would you prefer, but would you like a Republican sample ballot?
Yes.
And I'm going to say by 50 to 60%, black Americans are requesting the Republican ballots.
And you said you've been working at two different polling locations. Is this in Fairfax County? When you say Alexandria, where are you?
In both are in Fairfax. One was at the Mount Vernon Government Center.
Yeah.
And the other was at the Lorton Community Center.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And like I say, it's 5 to 6, 50, 60% are asking for the Republican sample ballots. And, it depends on how much cheating goes on. But I think this portends good things for Trump and all the down ballot initiatives.
I think something super interesting is happening. I feel really good. I'm feeling optimistic, but I really feel I want to feel guarded about that cautiously optimistic, because I've been let down a lot. Hey, so Dave, when you have these conversations, you're handing out sample ballots. How often is it that they know right away, I'm voting for Trump, and just give me the sample ballot because I'd appreciate the cheat sheet as I walk in for all the other things I'm voting for? And how many people show up and they genuinely have some questions for you, where you kind of work through with them who they might vote for as they go in?
Well, I mean, most of them are rather certain about who they're voting for, at least in the presidential race. In Virginia, the constitutional amendment to provide benefits to not only the deceased spouses of service members killed in combat, but also to those who are killed in the line of duty.
Right.
There are two other ballot initiatives regarding Metro and what's the other one? Help me.
Yeah, they're two. Do you want to take on more debt? And the answer to that is no. I don't want to take on more debt. You vote against that. But for
for police stations and to build new police stations when we don't have the recruits to fill current stations. Mm-hmm. So not taking on more debt. So many people are just unaware of those initiatives. They're paying attention to the race itself, not the initiative.
Yeah, I believe that. People want to know how should I handle these ballot initiatives. That makes a lot of sense. Well, that's good. That's interesting. And then finally, are you out there all the time such that you can have a good sense of just how many people are showing up to the polls? Because I have been wondering, are Republicans front loaded? In other words, did they show up at just the first few days of early voting and then the rest will show up on election day? Or are you watching a steady stream of Republican votes come in?
This is only my third time. I know you guys drew big, handing out those donuts
yes.
out there in Fairfax. Maybe we ought to do that countywide. You guys have the budget, right?
Just to be clear, we do not have the budget. All of that was out of pocket. That was.
Yeah, I wish I could give you an answer on that. I don't know.
Okay.
But it seems like, there's a rush in the morning. I was there mid-morning to mid-afternoon, and it was a pretty steady stream. And like I say, even, people of other races were picking up the Republican sample ballots as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're living through one of the most fascinating times, and you're right on the front lines there, volunteering. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate your call today. Good to talk to you. There's Dave in Alexandria. To Dave's point about what's happening, first and foremost, with black voters in America, there is a lot going on. I mean, for one, you have Barack Obama out there scolding black men. How dare you support Donald Trump? And then you have Lawrence Jones over at the Fox News Channel. He's been doing a barbershop tour around the country, and he just stopped in Detroit this week. And this is some of the audio that he captured as he was talking to black barbershop, just talking to the barbers and the customers. And here's what he got.
At the end of the day, I'm Trump because my eyes open. I can see that he was doing a lot better than what we're going through right now. You can't even go to the grocery stores right now without making a life decision on what you want to get. You know, you got to compromise. We don't have to go through that 4 years ago.
You know, just being able to just live on a day-to-day basis, it has become a little harder at this point in time.
Meanwhile, there's that radio show called The Breakfast Club, hosted by a fellow called Leonard. He goes by Charlemagne Thagard. And he just did an interview this week, a town hall of sorts, with Kamala Harris, and he was very very pro-Kamala. Let's put it that way throughout it. Although he did ask her a couple questions that she stumbled around on. She really wasn't able to handle. And there was a caller into Charlemagne's program this week who said, look, I'm just not buying it from Kamala.
Yo, so Charlemagne,
yes,
I watched the interview with Kamala Harris. I watched last night's interview with Brett Baer with Kamala Harris, and she really exposed her and prepared. She stuttered. She blamed Trump. She didn't really have any answers to all of the questions that Brett Baer was asking her. And I was very disappointed, because I felt like she should have used their interview as a sparring match to get ready for those hard questions that they were going to be asked. Well, not relatively hard questions, just questions to answer some really important issues that the America's having in general.
Well, I have to say I disagree with you. I thought the interview with Brett Baer was fantastic. You know what I mean? I thought she answered every question. You know,
this is so North Korean. Like, what? You got to be kidding.
You just don't want to agree with her answers. But she answered every question, and she ran, she
evaded. She was very disingenuous with all of her answers.
Give me an example.
She did not answer not one question that Brett Baer asked.
Give me an example.
I'm going to give you an example. When Brett Baer asks, what are you going to do different for the last 3.5 years that you was in as the VP to you being president? What are you going to do different? Her answer was to, one, blame Trump, and then two, say something like, I'm going to turn a new leaf. That was never the whole intended answer.
Brother, I mean, to me, she that was her best answer on the Joe Biden.
Take it easy. She could not answer. She could not. She wanted to call Trump somebody who was unstable, that couldn't run the country, yet she was the VP to Joe Biden for 3.5 years, and she never really was able to find a diagnosis to when Biden became unstable. That's being very disingenuous. That's being very disingenuous as VP, and then you want the people to vote for you? That's crazy. And then you're going to blame Trump? That's not how you win.
He's taking over the show. He's taking over the whole show. Charlemagne, sit to the side. This guy's got it.
By blaming your opponent. You have to come in there and retort with facts.
That's not what she did, though. But, you know,
everybody has a different opinion on how they see things, though.
But she literally answered the Joe Biden question directly. She said if she wins the election, it will not be a continuation of a Joe Biden administration.
What does that even mean? There'll be a different president. What? This is like the answer that she gave last week, where she said, I'm a different person than Joe Biden. I'm not Joe Biden. Yeah, that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, in what ways will your policies be different than Joe Biden's? And today, yet again, in light of the fact that she doesn't have an answer to this question, she's out there saying that she can't be critical of Joe because she's his vice president. She straight up told MSNBC today that she's not allowed to be critical. That's one of the rules. If you're vice president, you can't criticize the current president. So the implication, of course, is, I do things differently. I just can't tell you what, because Joe Biden was a crappy president, and I don't want to say it out loud. I don't want to tell you, because I have some criticisms, but I can't tell you because I'm so loyal, she says. It doesn't sound like it. It's for... Okay. Coming up, we're going to chat with David Strom Something's happening right now, and David's writing about it today for Hot Air. The headline, "The Smell of Desperation." I can't wait to chat with David. Always look forward to that. Stay with us here on The Vince Coglianese Show.